Half of a century ago, Prince of Songkla University has been established during a challenging time for Thailand and mankind. While the world community is heading towards sustainable development in order to find solutions to the continuing problems of our time. Collaboration between ASEAN members has just started. Thailand is still reforming its economic structure on a foundation of innovation, technology and creativity. In accordance with our national strategy, the southern region of Thailand has been designated to be a base of green economy and a global tourist destination. These are the missions of Prince of Songkla University, the first university of the South, one of Thailand's research universities, and an internationally recognized source of higher education. Prince of Songkla University, one of the 5 leading higher education institutions of Thailand and a high-ranking university in Asia. With focus on an intensive promotion of research and development along with graduate studies in order to create new practical knowledge for the public, including innovations for enhanced quality of life, economy and environment. The locations of our 5 campuses are strategically placed on the Thai Peninsula, the centre of ASEAN. Rich in various resources, cultures, wisdom and economic activities. Well equipped to identify and manage the serious issues that severely impact the quality of life, society, economy and the environment today. These issues pose an endless challenge to the researchers of Prince of Songkla University. Prince of Songkla University supports its researchers by providing assistance to the setup of research networks on several levels. Prince of Songkla University has supported 8 research institutes to focus on industrial economics, medical science and public health, natural resources and environment, social and cultural matters. In addition, 3 more research institutes are planned in order to support future economic development. We aim to be the leader of research in fields related to the potential of the southern region in order to create stable, wealthy and sustainable development by researching to increase value of resources on both global and local levels. At the same time, we are researching answers to climate change related issues. We develop technologies for the future. Innovations for energy. Knowledge-based enhancements to food security. Medical innovations to better the lives of people. All are supported by organizations that provide essential assistance throughout research process. Local economic growth is sustainably supported based on innovation and creativity. We create a mechanism of collaboration with the private sector to support the creation of innovations and products, as well as the sharing of knowledge with several sectors through various channels. The Modern Scientific Equipment Centre. Nearly 300 laboratories of universal standard. High-performance information technology and communication infrastructure. Prince of Songkla University also serves public benefit by seeking for solutions, improving the society and culture with knowledge. Whilst also transferring knowledge to people through various procedures and channels. All 5 campuses of Prince of Songkla University aim for creating a productive environment for researchers to facilitate their pursuit of knowledge and lifestyle. Our green campuses are surrounded by nature, convenience and safety, located among popular tourist attractions and modern transportation networks that provide easy connection to all other regions of the country. Several researchers of Prince of Songkla University have been recognized nationally and internationally for their outstanding research achievements. To face the challenges of modern times, our researchers are constantly searching for knowledge, creating innovations as they have been doing for decades. With a soul that is for the benefit of mankind, as advised by His Royal Highness Prince Mahidol Adulyadej, the Prince Father. As a research university that creates innovations and social improvements, Prince of Songkla University will continue this mission in order to provide better quality to the public today and in the future.
Times of challenges from June the 1st to the 2nd, 2021 at the Faculty of Education, Prince of Songkla University, Pattani campus, and this conference will be held entirely online. On Tuesday, June the 1st, 2021 from 9 to 9:15 a.m. There will be an opening ceremony, welcome speech by Associate Professor Imchit Lotpungsombat, Vice President for Pattani Campus, Prince of Songkla University. Report by Associate Professor Dr. the Dean of the Faculty of Education, Prince of Songkla University, and the opening remark by Assistant Professor Dr. Niwat, President of Prince of Songkla University.
วันอังคารที่ 1 มิถุนายน 2564 เวลา 9 นาฬิกาถึง 9 นาฬิกา 15 นาที พิธีเปิด การกล่าวต้อนรับโดยรองศาสตราจารย์อิ่มจิตเลิศพงษ์สมบัติ รองอธิการบดีวิทยาเขตปัตตานี การกล่าวรายงานโดยรองศาสตราจารย์ดร.เอกรินทร์สังทอง คณบดีคณะศึกษาศาสตร์ และการกล่าวเปิดโดยผู้ช่วยศาสตราจารย์ดร.นิวัฒน์แก้วประดับ อธิการบดีมหาวิทยาลัยสงขลานครินทร์
From 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. Keynote address on the topic of a new paradigm for teaching and research in times of challenges by Professor Dr. Jeffrey Brooks, Associate Dean for Research and Innovation, School of Education, RMIT University, Australia.
เวลา 9:30 น. ถึง 10:30 น. บรรยายพิเศษเรื่อง A New Paradigm for Teaching and Researching in Times of Challenges โดย Professor Dr. Jeffrey H. Brook, RMIT University, Australia.
10:45 to 11:45 a.m. keynote address on the topic of Innovative Leadership for Sustainable Education by Professor Dr. Hamdan bin Said, Head of Higher Education Research Group, Coordinator for International Relations, Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanity, University Technology, Malaysia.
10:45 น. ถึง 11:45 น. บรรยายพิเศษเรื่อง Innovative Leadership for Sustainable Education โดย Professor Dr. Hamdan bin Said, University Technology Malaysia ประเทศมาเลเซีย
For international conference in the afternoon session from 1 to 3 p.m. there will be international virtual oral presentation, and from 3 to 3:30 p.m. there will be award recognition and closing ceremony by Associate Professor Dr. Ikarin Santong, the Dean of the Faculty of Education, Prince of Songkhla University.
เวลา 13:00 น. ถึง 15:00 น. เป็นการนำเสนอผลงานทางวิชาการระดับนานาชาติเวลา 15:00 น. ถึง 15:30 น. ประกาศผลงานวิจัยดีเด่นและพิธีปิดโดยรองศาสตราจารย์ดร.เอกรินทร์สังทองคณบดีคณะศึกษาศาสตร์
National Conference from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. There will be a panel discussion on innovative and sustainable education in times of challenges. The panelists will be Associate Professor Dr. Thapani Thamameta, Director of Thailand Cyber University, Dr. Supot Sinutupong, Head of Technical Knowledge Management AIS Advanced Info Service Public Limited Company, Mr. Wushan Shaibang, Director of Lamplai Mat Patana School. Moderator will be Assistant Professor Dr. Opat Kausayapon, Director of Kun Ying Long Atrakawi Sonton, Learning Resources Center, Prince of Songkhla University.
เวลา 13:30 น. ถึง 15:30 น. การเสวนาเรื่องนวัตศึกษาที่ยั่งยืนในช่วงเวลาแห่งความท้าทายโดยรองศาสตราจารย์ดร.ถาปณีธรรมเมธาผู้อำนวยการโครงการมหาวิทยาลัยไซเบอร์ไทยดร.สุพจน์ศรีนุตพงศ์ Head of Technical Knowledge Management AIS Advanced Info Services Public Limited Company อาจารย์วิเชียรชัยบังผู้อำนวยการโรงเรียนลำปลายมาศพัฒนานำการเสวนาโดยผู้ช่วยศาสตราจารย์ดร.โอภาสเกาสายาพรผู้อำนวยการสำนักทรัพยากรการเรียนรู้คุณหญิงหลงอัฏฐกรวีสุนทรมหาวิทยาลัยสงขลานครินทร์
On Wednesday, June the 2nd, 2021, 8:45 to 9 a.m. Presenter reporting Group 1 and 2, 9 to 10:30 a.m. National Virtual Oral Presentation Group 1, 10:30 to 10:45 refreshment, 10:45 to 12 p.m. there will be National Virtual Oral Presentation Group 2. From 1 to 2:45 p.m. be National Virtual Oral Presentation Group 3, 3 to 4:30 p.m. National Virtual Oral Presentation Group 4.
วันพุธที่ 2 มิถุนายน 2564 เวลา 8:45 น. ถึง 9:00 น. การเตรียมความพร้อมสำหรับการนำเสนอผลงานทางวิชาการระดับชาติเวลา 9:00 น. ถึง 10:30 น. การนำเสนอผลงานทางวิชาการระดับชาติช่วงที่ 1 ช่วงบ่ายผู้นำเสนอผลงานในช่วงที่ 3 และ 4 เตรียมความพร้อมสำหรับการนำเสนอในระบบ Zoom เวลา 13:00 น. ถึง 14:45 น. เป็นการนำเสนอผลงานทางวิชาการระดับชาติในช่วงที่ 3 และ 15:00 น. ถึง 16:30 น. เป็นการนำเสนอผลงานทางวิชาการระดับชาติช่วงที่ 4
Audio Jungle.
Sawadika.
Sawadika. Good morning, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to welcome all of you to the 8th National and the 4th International Conference on Education 2021 with the theme Innovative and Sustainable Education in Times of Challenges. I'm Sulaya Haji Hama.
And I am Panchai Sengsila. We are
very honored to be the master of ceremony for this conference. This conference will be held entirely online, hosted by the Faculty of Education, Prince of Songkla University, on June the 1st to the 2nd, 2021. The objective of the conference are to provide a platform for professors, academics, researchers, practitioners, and students from all over the world to come together to share and exchange their research results, experience, and expertise on educational development, which can lead to practical application. This also will be a stage to brainstorm ideas and opinion from the academic, researcher, educational expert, practitioners, and staff on education, leadership, and innovation in learning society for a mutual understanding and awareness to build an educationally enhanced society, as well as to foster the development and expansion of research network to ensure security in the area and to strengthen research connection for future collaboration.
การประชุมในครั้งนี้นะคะได้จัดขึ้นในระบบออนไลน์แบบเต็มรูปแบบโดยคณะศึกษาศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยสงขลานครินทร์ระหว่างวันที่ 1-2 มิถุนายน 2564 โดยมีวัตถุประสงค์ของการประชุมเพื่อเป็นเวทีในการนำเสนอผลงานวิจัยการแลกเปลี่ยนประสบการณ์และเรียนรู้ระหว่างกันตลอดจนการแสดงความคิดเห็นต่อการพัฒนาการศึกษานำไปสู่กระบวนการของการปฏิบัติระดมความคิดเห็นจากนักวิชาการนักวิจัยผู้เชี่ยวชาญและหน่วยงานที่เกี่ยวข้องเพื่อความตระหนักและเข้าใจร่วมกันในด้านของการศึกษาภาวะผู้นำและนวัตกรรมในสังคมแห่งการเรียนรู้ซึ่งเป็นการสร้างความเข้าใจและภาพลักษณ์ที่ดีให้เกิดขึ้นในสังคมและเพื่อสนับสนุนให้มีการพัฒนาการขยายเครือข่ายการนำผลงานวิจัยไปใช้ในเชิงพัฒนาสร้างความมั่นคงในพื้นที่รวมถึงตระหนักและเข้าใจร่วมกันในด้านการศึกษาภาวะผู้นำและนวัตกรรมในสังคมด้วยค่ะรวมถึงเรายังมีความต้องการที่จะสร้างสังคมแห่งการเรียนรู้และนอกจากนั้นนะคะเพื่อสนับสนุนให้มีการพัฒนาและการขยายเครือข่ายการนำผลงานวิจัยไปใช้ในเชิงพัฒนาสร้างความมั่นคงในพื้นที่ตลอดจนสามารถสร้างงานวิจัยและสร้างความร่วมมือในระดับที่สูงขึ้นต่อไปค่ะสำหรับการจัดโครงการวิจัยในครั้งนี้เราได้รับความร่วมมือจากหลายภาคส่วนนะคะซึ่งเจ้าภาพร่วมของเราในส่วนของระดับชาติในปีนี้มีทั้งหมด17สถาบันดังนี้ค่ะ 1. คณะศึกษาศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยสงขลานครินทร์ 2. สำนักงานเลขาธิการสภาการศึกษา 3. สำนักงานการวิจัยแห่งชาติ 4. โครงการมหาวิทยาลัยไซเบอร์ไทย 5. สถาบันเทคโนโลยีพระจอมเกล้าเจ้าคุณทหารลาดกระบัง 6. คณะศึกษาศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยเชียงใหม่ 7. คณะศึกษาศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยศรีนครินทรวิโรธ 8. คณะศึกษาศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยศิลปากร 9. คณะศึกษาศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยบูรพา 10. คณะศึกษาศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยนเรศวร 11. คณะศึกษาศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยฟาตอนี 12. วิทยาลัยสงฆ์ปัตตานี 13. คณะศึกษาศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยทักษิณ 14. คณะครุศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยราชภัฏนครศรีธรรมราช 15. คณะครุศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยราชภัฏยะลา 16. คณะครุศาสตร์อุตสาหกรรมและเทคโนโลยีมหาวิทยาลัยเทคโนโลยีราชมงคลศรีวิชัยวิทยาเขตสงขลาและ 17. คณะศึกษาศาสตร์และศิลปศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยหาดใหญ่ค่ะ
This year we have great support and contribution for international conference and from distinguished co-hosts. There are Prince of Songkla University, Office of Education Council Thailand, Faculty of Education Srinakarin Virod University, Thailand, Faculty of Education Silpakorn University, Thailand, Faculty of Education Purapa University, Thailand, Faculty of Education Naresuan University, Thailand, Faculty of Education State University of Malang, Indonesia, Postgraduate School of University Negeri Medan, Indonesia, Faculty of Education Nakhon Si Thammarat Ratchapat University, Thailand, Faculty of Education, Yala Rajapat University, Thailand, Amity Institute of Education, Amity University, Uttar Pradesh, India, Faculty of Education, Monash University, Australia, Faculty of Education, Faculty of Social Science and Humanities, University of Technology, Malaysia, School of Education, Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, Australia, Faculty of Education, International Islamic University, College Selangor, Malaysia, Nagoya City University, Japan, Center for Instructional Technology and Multimedia, University of Science, Malaysia, and College of Education, University of Missouri, USA. Ladies and gentlemen, now may I invite Associate Professor Imjit Lertpung Sombat, Vice President for Pattani Campus, Prince of Songkhla University, for a welcoming speech.
ค่ะลำดับต่อไปนะคะขอเรียนเชิญทุกท่านรับชมวิดีโอกล่าวต้อนรับจากรองศาสตราจารย์อิ่มจิตเลิศพงษ์สมบัติท่านรองอธิการบดีวิทยาเขตปัตตานีขอเชิญรับชมค่ะ
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the 8th National and the 4th International on Education Conference 2021. I'm very grateful to the Faculty of Education, Prince of Songkhla University, for their tremendous support they have provided as the host of the conference. It is fortunate to have the support of great sponsor and co-host of the conference. I would like to express my thankfulness on behalf of the organizer. Thank you so much for your kind advocating and contribution. I'm very much obliged to our distinguished speaker, presenter, and participant who have dedicated time out of their busy schedule to share the experience with us in a few days. I appreciate your generosity to openly share your knowledge and experiences. I do hope that all of you will enjoy the keynote speech at the panel session from diverse prominent experts and scholars, as well as the oral presentation and poster presentations from the participants. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, with this, I officially welcome all of you to this distinguished The 8th National and the 4th International Conference on Education with the theme Innovative and Sustainable Education in Times of Challenges. Thank you and สวัสดีค่ะ
Thank you, Associate Professor Imjit Lertpung Sombat, Vice President for Pattani Campus, Prince of Songkhla University, for the welcoming speech. Now, may I invite Associate Professor Dr. Ikarin Santong, Dean of Faculty of Education, Prince of Songkhla University, for a reporting speech, following by opening remarks by Assistant Professor Dr. Niwat Keopradap, President of Prince of Songkhla University.
ค่ะขอบพระคุณท่านรองศาสตราจารย์อิ่มจิตเลิศพงษ์สมบัติรองอธิการบดีวิทยาเขตปัตตานีนะคะและในลำดับต่อไปจะขอเรียนเชิญทุกท่านได้รับชมวิดีโอการกล่าวรายงานโดยรองศาสตราจารย์ดร.เอกรินทร์สังทองคณบดีคณะศึกษาศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยสงขลานครินทร์วิทยาเขตปัตตานีและรวมถึงการกล่าวเปิดโครงการโดยผู้ช่วยศาสตราจารย์ดร.นิวัฒน์แก้วประดับอธิการบดีมหาวิทยาลัยสงขลานครินทร์ขอเชิญรับชมค่ะ
สวัสดีครับ and good morning. Presidents, deans, directors, and delegates of our co-hosting university and organization, esteemed keynote speakers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. As education and learning are essential for the prosperity of a nation, this national and international conference on education is therefore organized to bring together educators, researchers, practitioners, and students in ASEAN and worldwide to share their knowledge and experiences, as well as to foster research network for future collaboration. In this year, we propose the theme Innovative and Sustainable Education in Times of Challenges as the core value of the conference. The conference provides featured speeches, oral presentation, and poster presentation throughout the 2 days. The conference provides 2 keynote addresses on the first day. The first address is a new paradigm for teaching and researching in times of challenges, delivered by Professor Dr. David Brooks, Associate Dean for Research and Innovation from School of Education, RMIT University, Australia. And the second speech is entitled Innovative Leadership for Sustainable Education by Professor Dr. Amdan bin Sai, Head of Higher Education Research Group, Coordinator for International Relations from the Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities, University of Technology, Malaysia. The conference contains a panel session leading by Assistant Professor Dr. Opat Kausayapon, Assistant President for Media and Educational Technology Development, Prince of Songkhla University. And the honorable panelists are Associate Professor Dr. Thapani Thammeta, Director of Thailand Cyber University, Dr. Supot Sinuttapong, Head of Technical Knowledge Management, AIS Advanced Info Services Public Company Limited, and Kun Vichian Chaibang, Director of Lampremat School. In this year, we have 13 co-hosts for the National Conference and 17 co-hosts for the International Conference. The overall number of research papers is 216 papers, 198 papers for National Conference, and 18 papers of International Conference. The number of registered of the National Conference is 401 registered, 188 oral presenters, 52 poster presenters, 88 co-presenters, and 73 participants. For the International Conference, there are 89 registered, 32 oral presenters, and 57 participants. On behalf of Prince of Songkhla University, Pattini Campus, and the Faculty of Education, I would like to thank the co-hosts for your contribution to the success of this conference. My thanks also go to the participants who are an invisible part of this event. I truly hope you all enjoy and have a fruitful engagement at the 8th National and the 4th International Conference on Education 2021. And thank you. ขอบคุณครับ
Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Prince of Songkhla University, we are delighted and honored to organize this 8th National and the 4th International Conference on Education 2021, which highlights the key theme of innovative and sustainable education in time of challenges. In the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic and times of challenges, no one can deny the fact that the world of education becomes increasingly adapted. With such fact, research is considered as the key to the development of knowledge and has eventually become one major mission of higher education institutions worldwide, leading to more innovative and sustainable education. Consequently, this national and international conference on education will help to provide opportunities to explore issues from multiple perspectives, as well as share the best practice, lessons, and expertise among the educationalists. Participants will also have a chance to to establish local, regional, and global professional networks for future collaboration, which is an essential capacity for the 21st century. I would like to end by thanking the organizers, the co-hosts, distinguished keynote speakers, honorable presenters, and participants. I wish all of you a fruitful, productive, and memorable time during this wonderful event. I do hope that all of you will enjoy the keynote speech and panel session, as well as the oral presentations and poster presentations from the participants. It is hoped that this conference could be the right step towards further cooperation and collaboration between various scholars and presenters in the educational field. I wish all of us stay safe and healthy during this COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you and สวัสดีครับ
Thank you, Associate Professor Dr. Ikarin Santong, Dean for Faculty of Education, Prince of Songkhla University, for the reporting speech, and Assistant Professor Dr. Niwat Kelpradap, President of Prince of Songkhla University, for the opening remarks.
ค่ะขอบพระคุณท่านรองศาสตราจารย์ดร.เอกรินทร์สังทองคณบดีคณะศึกษาศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยสงขลานครินทร์วิทยาเขตปัตตานีสำหรับคำกล่าวรายงานนะคะและรวมถึงการกล่าวเปิดโครงการโดยผู้ช่วยศาสตราจารย์ดร.นิวัฒน์แก้วประดับอธิการบดีมหาวิทยาลัยสงขลานครินทร์ด้วยค่ะขณะนี้นะคะขอให้ทุกท่านช่วยกันแชร์การถ่ายทอดสดพิธีเปิดและรวมถึงการบรรยายพิเศษและการเสวนาในครั้งนี้ไปยัง Facebook ของตนเองพร้อมทั้งตั้งค่าสาธารณะเพื่อแสดงถึงการเข้าร่วมและได้รับเกียรติบัตรของผู้เข้าร่วมงานในระบบด้วยค่ะในขณะนี้นะคะเราจะนำทุกท่านเข้าสู่พิธีเปิดอย่างเป็นทางการค่ะ
Ladies and gentlemen, as we are broadcasting this morning's session via Facebook Live and YouTube Live, please kindly share this broadcasting to your Facebook and setting as public view. This will be your evidence to get the certificate of participation.
ค่ะและอีกสักครู่ในระดับต่อไปนะคะเราจะเข้าสู่การบรรยายพิเศษในเรื่องกระบวนทัศน์ใหม่สำหรับการสอนและการวิจัยในช่วงเวลาแห่งความท้าทายซึ่งเราได้รับเกียรตินะคะจาก Professor Dr. Jeffrey S. Brooks จาก RMIT University ประเทศออสเตรเลียค่ะ
And in a few minutes, we will have a keynote address entitled A New Paradigm for Teaching and Researching in Times of Challenges by Professor Dr. Jeffrey Brooks.
ค่ะและก่อนที่จะรับฟังการบรรยายพิเศษนะคะขออนุญาตในการที่จะเรียนกล่าวถึงประวัติของท่านวิทยากรสักเล็กน้อยนะคะคือท่าน Professor Dr. Jeffrey S. Brooks โดยสังเขปค่ะ Now let me introduce brief information about our distinguished speaker. Professor Dr. Jeffrey S. Brooks is now an Associate Dean for Research and Innovation, School of Education, Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, RMIT University of Australia. For his academic background, he got a PhD in May 2003 for his specializations in educational leadership, educational policy analysis, organizational analysis, qualitative research and methodologies. And he got his Master of Education in December 1999 for his specializations in curriculum and instruction media literacy. And for his Bachelor of Arts in December 1995 For his specialization is in English literature and composition psychology.
Dr. Brooks' research specialization include educational leadership, management and administration, education and social justice, school principals and heads of school, education and racism, teacher and educational leader, education and culture, education and globalization, education research method. His geographical specialization include the United States, Australia, Philippines, Thailand, and Indonesia. Due to this year's pandemic, our event has been held entirely online. We would like to ask for cooperation to share information about our conference, and for your information, if you have any questions regarding this coming speech, keynote speech, please leave your comment via Facebook or YouTube Live.
ค่ะและตามที่ได้เรียนแจ้งให้ทราบแล้วนะคะว่าในปีนี้งานของเราได้จัดขึ้นเป็นแบบออนไลน์อย่างเต็มรูปแบบนะคะก็ต้องขอความร่วมมือผู้เข้าร่วมรับชมรับฟังทุกท่านนะคะในการแชร์ข้อมูลในการจัดประชุมวิชาการของเราในครั้งนี้เพื่อที่จะได้เป็นการกระจายเรื่องขององค์ความรู้ไปสู่ทุกท่านที่ได้รับชมในครั้งนี้ด้วยค่ะและทั้งนี้การบรรยายพิเศษในครั้งนี้หากท่านมีคำถามต้องการแลกเปลี่ยนกับท่านวิทยากรท่านสามารถสอบถามผ่านทางแชททาง Facebook Live และ YouTube Live ได้เลยค่ะ
Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Dr. Jeffrey Brooks for the keynote address entitled A New Paradigm for Teaching and Researching in Times of Challenge.
ขอเชิญรับชมได้เลยค่ะ
Hopefully I'll be able to speak to you a little bit about some themes that cut across and are relevant to all of you. I'm also a teacher and an administrator. Right now, I'm an associate dean in the School of Education at RMIT University. But I've also been a grade 7 language arts teacher. I've taught many university subjects. I think the last time I looked, I had taught over 35 different subjects over the time I've been an academic, and held a variety of other administrative roles too. So I hope that some of that teaching experience, again, relates to you and that you find some useful and interesting things throughout the presentation. Probably more important than any of that, though, I'm someone who cares deeply about education and who's passionate about improving individuals and the systems in which I work. So just like all of us who are teachers, all of us who work in education, we're really trying to make ourselves better. We're trying to make our students better. We're trying to make our schools or universities better. And really, we're trying to make a big difference in the world. And I think that that's why, to me, education is the core of all of society's work. It's very much the wheels that keep societies and institutions moving, and it's the possibility for having a better future. So, what I'm going to put to you in these coming slides is to think about and reflect on what it means to teach, lead, and research in a time of difficulty. To be sure, we're in an unprecedented situation. I'm not sure exactly the situation in Thailand, but we here in Melbourne have just gone back into lockdown. So even though as a country we have the coronavirus situation well in hand, we've had an outbreak, which just reminds us all of how dangerous the situation is and about how everything can change in an instant. Now, that has great implications for us to think about when it comes to teaching, when it comes to research, when it comes to leadership, when it comes to all of the kinds of things that we do in schools and universities. So one of the ways that I thought when I thought about how we could have a conversation about this, I thought back to a time when I was in graduate school, the same graduate school that Dean Suntong went to also, and Om and some other people who work with you at PSU. So back then, my dean at the time, Dick Andrews, asked a question to all of us as students. And he said, what 3 words would you use to describe an outstanding educator? We went around the room, and all of us, there was a class of about 30 in our graduate program, and everyone came up with different things that, ranging from very emotional things like love all the way to highly technical things like efficiency. Curiously, though, there were some things that people didn't talk about much. They didn't talk much about sort of the technical aspects of teaching. They didn't talk much about sort of discipline and organization, though we know those things can be important in certain contexts. But one of the things that, and not many people actually talked about learning, because most of the responses had to do with relationships, had to do with care, had to do with commitment, and all of those sorts of things. So that's the first question I would put to you at the beginning of the presentation, is I would ask you to consider, what 3 words would you use to describe an outstanding educator? Back then, these were the 3 words that I said. The first was authenticity. So to me, I think a good educator is authentic. They really are not, and they are who they present themselves as. They are who they are in their head, and they are who they are in their heart, and they are who they are with their deeds and with their words. And so to me, authenticity is one of the most important parts of being an educator. And that's all about walking the walk as well as talking the talk. The second one has to do with integrity. Now, I remember when I said this quite a long time ago, I was the only person in the room who raised this. Now, integrity to me as an educator means a couple of things. It means that, to be sure, it means personal integrity, how we know this word. It means sort of being true to myself. It means making sure that I'm doing right by the people around me, and all of those things that the word traditionally means. But one of the things that I think about when I think about integrity is also having the integrity of knowing that I'm fully prepared for my students, that I'm bringing them myself, and that I'm bringing them the latest and most up-to-date things about teaching and learning and leadership that I can possibly give to them. So integrity is much more than just about personal integrity. It's about creating also processes that have integrity, making decisions that have integrity, and striving toward outcomes that have integrity as well. The third word that I came up with all those years ago was responsibility. Now, to me, this is really the heart of much of what I do, especially in higher education, but it has a lot of transferability to schools and school systems as well. So to me, what responsibility means is that responsibility is all about making sure that I'm bringing as much of my talent and skill and thinking and hard work to the situation at hand as possible. So it means that I am accepting personal responsibility to make sure that I'm doing the best possible job I can as an administrator and as a teacher. Now, to others of you, that will mean something slightly different. It also means that I have a responsibility to the students entrusted to my care. It means also that I have a responsibility to the educators to try to do everything I can to create the conditions whereby they can do their best teaching, to make sure they have resources, to make sure that the culture of the place is positive and strong, and that everybody can ask questions and learn and grow themselves as an educator. So these three values many years ago are the words that to me embodied an educator. Now, as I said, this was some time ago. And since then, I've traveled around the world, I've studied many things, I've taught many educators, and I've learned from many educators as well. I've had many new experiences, as all of you have had throughout your own careers. So my thinking about education has evolved from that time. Particularly, my thinking about quality teaching and learning has grown. And I've come across many new concepts that I want to share with you as you consider which three words are most important to you. So, in many ways, what you might say is, well, I came up with those three words in the beginning. It's a list that's grown throughout my whole life and throughout my whole career. And what I'm going to share with you today is more of the other things that I've come to appreciate that are equally important about education, and share with you some of those additional words that to me are very important and help embody what good education is. The first of these is research. These are some of the students that were part of my research project in the Philippines. I'm going to intersperse some pictures because I think that that's how we also come to grips with the different kinds of things that really are important to us in addition to just speaking about them. So research, the word literally means to look again. So what research is about really is not at its heart about statistical procedures or qualitative analysis or theoretical frameworks or all of the things that we commonly associate with research. Those are just more sophisticated ways that help us look again at something. They help us give us new tools for thinking about education, new tools for thinking about research, new tools for thinking about teaching. And so this is one of the things that I really realize that good teachers do. They look at their practice, they reflect on it, they change, they grow. And research in that sense is like reflection, but it's systematic and technical. It's more than just sitting back after a lesson and thinking about what went well and what went poorly. It's about collecting data. It's about asking new questions. It's about exploring new possibilities. And it's about rethinking the assumptions of what we're doing so that we can hopefully understand what works and doesn't work on a much deeper level than what we might know if we weren't approaching our education as a researcher. So one of the lessons throughout my career that this has taught me is that good educators are good researchers. There's an old article by Gloria Ladson-Billings called "But That's Just Good Teaching." And that's the way I think it is with research. Good educators are good researchers. Good teachers are always looking at their practice and thinking, what can I do better? They're always looking at their students and saying, okay, these students seem to be understanding what I'm teaching, but these other students are not, so I have to do something different to reach them. This is in some ways what it means to be both a researcher and an educator. Another lesson related to research is that research allows us to learn lessons from educators next door and from around the world. It also helps us see the unseen. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that the best way we can learn lessons about what best practices are, whether that be teaching, whether that be research, whether that be leadership, whether that be anything else, is by reading the most current research. That's going to tell us what the evidence says are best practices across different aspects of teaching and working in schools and in education. It means that we're going to be able to learn lessons from throughout Thailand, so better than just sort of reading it in a newspaper. If you're reading it in a research journal, it should mean that this is through systematic research that's been rigorously tested. And so it's not just stories, it's much more than that. It also helps us connect with people around the world. Now, all of us can connect today via technology and using Zoom, but you're also able to, if you choose, go and find out about what's happening in Australia or in the United States or in Europe or in anywhere else about different topics that you teach or different things that interest you about education. The world is our oyster when it comes to connecting through research. And these are the ways we can learn from each other, because what research is really about in many ways is about teaching each other and showing each other what we've found by looking deeply at our practice. It helps us see things that we wouldn't normally see, pay attention to aspects of our classrooms and our schools and our universities that we may have overlooked. And it helps us do this in a systematic way that not only uncovers the importance of certain dynamics, but that also shows us what we can do about it. The next word that I believe is one of the most important to educators is listening. And that's me reading to my 3 daughters, another old picture, but it's one that always warms my heart. It's a nice, tender moment that their mother captured of us. So listen. What do we mean by that? When we talk about listening, it can be active or passive. You can listen to someone and be completely switched on and engaged with them and give them all of your attention, or you can be sitting in a lecture like this one, checking your phone, doing something else, thinking about what you need to do later that evening, or all of those things. The difference between active and passive listening is often the difference between being a good educator and a poor educator. Too often, educators engage in passive learning they have learned to disguise as active learning. So we have many people, for example, who will sit in a lecture and not really listen to what's being said, not engage with it, not really think about what it might teach them or what it might spur them to consider, or even what they might disagree with and why they disagree with it. All of those are valid reactions, but if we're not really listening to one another, we can't engage it on that level. Likewise, many educators have learned to do things like, if a student comes up and talks to them, say, yes, okay, I'll talk to you later. But then they're not really paying attention to what's going on. And so they'll miss some important cues that can help them be even better educators. So what I would put to you is that the amount and the type of listening is as important as just the act of listening. So it's critical that we are switched on, that we are actively listening to each other if we're going to learn from each other and if we're going to teach each other. Because establishing those feedback loops when it comes to listening and speaking and teaching are critical if we're going to improve our practice and be the best educators we can be. So one of the lessons related to listening has to do with some of the words that we like to use in education. We often like a lot of the co-words. We talk about collaboration, communication, collegiality. So it's community. We use lots of things to describe these kinds of ideas. But what's important about them is that they're relational. These are things we do with people. The co in communication, in collegiality, and all those words means together. So when we communicate, it is not just about speaking. It's also about listening. It's not just about presenting. It's about taking in new information. So it's a feedback loop. It's not, we have to really get past the idea that we sent out an email, it's done. We sent out a newsletter, I've communicated with people. We don't know if we're communicating unless we're creating feedback loops where people can actually speak back to the information and give their own input. The other lesson related to this aspect of education is that listening to your fellow educators and students is the key to individual and systemic improvement. We cannot just decide that we are improving things on our own. We have to understand what is happening throughout the organization. We have to understand how individuals are reacting to different ideas. We have to make sure that all of these things are working together. So it's important that we're listening to our students, to other educators, to people in the community, so that we can all improve together. The next word is love. Now, this is a word that, strangely, we don't use very much in education. These, again, are a couple of my daughters at a science center years ago. But when we're talking about love and education, what do we really mean? What are we talking about? There's, of course, romantic love. You fall in love with somebody. For me, it's falling in love with my wife. And then it's all of those kinds of aspects of love. But love is much more than this, right? There's platonic love. There's the love we have for the children we teach, which is a platonic love. There's also agape, which is just a fancy word for caring. So what that's really saying is that one type of love is that we care for people. We want them to do well. We want them to learn. We want them to succeed. We want them to be safe. We want them to be well. And especially during this time of pandemic, that type of love, that love we have for each other as brothers and sisters, as, perhaps countrymen and women, as people who live in the same community, people who attend the same university, is critical and has to be centered in our education. We have to remember that not everybody is experiencing the current situation the same way. For some people, this is a very difficult and testing time mentally and physically, while other people may be thriving under these kinds of circumstances. Another important type of love when it comes to education is maternal love. So that's the caring for our children. Also, compassion and empathy are critical when we start talking about love. There's that co-prefix again for compassion. So what that really means, that word is passion together. So that's two people who are committed to each other, who really care about each other and are happy to do things for each other. Empathy is, of course, putting ourselves into another person's shoe and trying to understand what the world looks like from their perspective. So the lesson to take away from love and engaging with this idea, I would say, is that teaching is often called an act of caring, but at its heart, it's an act of love. Teaching is an act of tenderness, of compassion, of concern. It's one where we express how deeply we care about each other. And so, to me, teaching and leadership and love and all of those relational things that we do in schools are right at the heart of what it means to be human, what it means to be teaching, what it means to be a giving person. And under the current circumstances, where many of us may be in different situations related to the pandemic, it's even more important to make sure that we're telling each other we love each other and that we're taking care of each other as far as our spiritual, emotional, intellectual, and educational well-being is concerned. The next word that was added to the list is glocalization. Those of you who have been coming to these for a while have heard me speak about glocalization before. Now, glocalization has to do with bringing together lots of places from around the world, right? So glocalization, rather than globalization, is when you bring together the local and the global. Now, why use a word like that? One of the issues related to glocalization is that often when you speak to teachers or educators, they understand the local. They see it every day. They see the students in their classroom, the parents, their communities, their country even. And then globalization is sometimes something that's a little bit further away, though through the internet, the world seems a little bit smaller and we may connect with people. But when we talk about it as glocalization, we're really emphasizing the relationship between the local and the global. So what we're talking about is being able to identify the intersections in your communities, the places where what's happening around the world is influencing what's happening in the school, and then how what's happening in the school is influencing things around the world. Now, when we talk about glocalization or globalization, it definitely brings with it both positive and negative dynamics. So on the one hand, it may bring new teaching materials. On the other hand, it may bring in ideas that are damaging to our culture or to our education system. We have to, as educators, be critical and discerning of anything that's coming into the school. We need to make sure that we understand what ideas are coming into our communities and our schools, and we have to be sure that we are educating about these so that people, our students, our teachers, can make informed decisions about the way that they integrate ideas into their practice as educators. So, one lesson learned from this concept of glocalization is that the world is a single schoolhouse. We actually have the opportunity to connect with each other, to share ideas with each other, to do all of these kinds of things in a way that maybe in the past it was we talked about it in terms of competition, but now we can talk about it in terms of collaboration. So we need to be sharing with each other and making sure that we're taking on that spirit that I'm here to learn from people around the world, and if I have anything to offer, I'm here to also teach people around the world. So the second lesson related to glocalization is that our schools and school systems have not kept speed with the world's rate of interconnectedness and change. That is, we're all much more connected now than we were 5 years ago, and in 5 more years, it's going to be even further along the road. Yet, many of our education systems are focusing mainly on what's in the backyard, or what's in our state, or what's in our country. It's really critical that we have a broader vision of what education is in that, because it's not the world that anyone lives in anymore. People live in a world that's connected. All of us are connecting right now. And so if we don't practice our education in this way, we're going to miss out on important dynamics. We're not going to be preparing people for the future or even the present that's really happening. So it's important for us as educators not to look too small. We have to look for connections. We have to look for ways that we can connect with others, and we have to make sure that we're always seeking to expand our ways of thinking about and learning from people around the world. Another concept is that of advocacy. Now, advocacy, this is my daughter. Advocacy means many things to many people. For me, it means in part, at least, advocating for people who are vulnerable, whether that be children, whether that be poor people, whether that be minoritized peoples in a culture or anything like that. So education at its best is proactive rather than reactive. It is something that helps people's lives in a very clear way and doesn't just wait for them to figure it out for themselves. Schools are a part of society. They influence each other. Meaning that, so whatever is happening in society, when there's a new policy, a new political practice, even a new song, a new book that everyone's reading, that influences what's happening in the school. And likewise, the school influences what's happening in society. We have to pay attention to these kinds of dynamics so that we understand our agency and our ability to influence them. So it's really critical that we understand, what our students and our fellow educators' lives are like outside of the school, so that we understand the types of dynamics, whether they be social, cultural, economic, that they may be facing, and we're providing an education that's relevant to that situation. So the bottom line is that some people have a lot and some people don't have very much. And the question to all of us as educators is, what are we going to do about that? Are we going to just teach about it? Are we going to ignore it? Are we going to step in and help those in need? Are we going to only worry about the people who have everything they already need? The question is, who will advocate for those in need, for those people who don't have a voice, for those people who don't have money, for those people who don't have a quality education? The answer to that question is you and me. And all of us have the opportunity to step up and make a difference in people's lives in a positive way, but not if we don't accept the responsibility. So it's important that as we think about equity in education, we understand that the advocacy, the agency that needs to happen will only come from us. The other question is whether or not we're advocating for systems or for individuals. We might, for example, know a student very well and say, "Oh, well, I'm going to do something to help them." That's fantastic, but you have to. But I would just urge you to always step back and say, "Now, wait a minute. If this is a situation that this student is in, is this also a situation that other students experience, or that they might experience a different situation? How can we make decisions here that benefit the most people possible in the strongest possible way?" It's critical that we understand that that it's often very common that we think, "Oh, I can solve this problem for this one student," but we need to think about it bigger than that and make sure that we have the whole in mind as we move forward. Another one for us to consider is learning, which you would think would be at the center of all educational practice. And these are some of my former students from Alabama doing some activities in class. So when it comes to learning, we all know that the best teachers are lifelong learners. The best teachers keep growing, they keep learning, they do professional development, they try to figure out new ways to teach their topics, they try to expand their thinking about things, and they're always trying to learn more and more and more. Now, what this is, if you think about it, is a focus on learning rather than teaching. Now, a focus on learning is a student-centered approach to education, and a focus on teaching is a teacher-centered focus on education. So if we're talking about a focus on learning, we mean putting students' learning at the center of it, and then figuring out what we can do as educators to facilitate and support that learning, rather than just focusing on our teaching and where we say, "Oh, I designed a great lesson and I delivered a good lesson, so I don't know what's wrong with the students." We need to make sure that the students are the ones who are always at the center of our conversations. So how do we know students are learning? There are many ways. We might test them, we might ask them, we need to do all of the above. But the lesson here is that education must always be about learning and preparation for a future we can't predict. We want to make sure that we are always expanding the ways that we think about what's happening around us. Are there new technologies that are emerging, new jobs? Are things changing and shifting? What's happening in the community? What's happening in the school? What is the disposition of the students? One of the things I think we see the most is that how quickly students' skills and knowledge related to technology has grown in the last few years. And I think it's fair to say that that knowledge and ability surpasses that of many teachers who are in schools these days. We have to understand what that means for our pedagogical practice, and we have to push ourselves into that space to learn even more. Another lesson is that learning is dynamic and idiosyncratic. There is no single way people learn. There is no single way to teach. There's no single way to assess something, and that we have to constantly be asking ourselves what's going to be best for the students. So I've talked for a while, and now what I'm going to do is pose another question to you like I did at the beginning of this presentation. We've talked a lot about educators, but what words would you use to describe an outstanding school or a university? Think about your experience at PSU. Think about your experience at your own schools or the schools in which you work or used to work. What words would you use to describe those? One of those, I hope, is creativity. And that's my son in the middle of the picture there. So when we think about creativity in education, we have to understand it both as an individual organizational quality. So individually, some teachers are very creative. They come up with amazing lessons. They have brilliant ideas and all of that. But then also we want to foster a culture of creativity in schools where people can take risks, people can study their practice, people can try new things, and where we're always sort of seeking and exploring and playing to try to make sure that we can have the possibility of creating something new. So we need to be mindful of nurturing rather than crushing creativity in ourselves and others. It's very easy working in schools to get into routines, to get into practices, and to start doing things that don't push us to be creative in our work. That's not helpful for ourselves or our students. I would just put to you that it's really important that we push ourselves to be creative as much as possible. So one of the lessons for that for schools is that outstanding educators provide structures and processes without always imposing outcomes. We want to give people the opportunity to explore, to create something new, to ask questions that haven't been asked before. And to do all of these sorts of activities is at the heart of what education is all about. Another word that characterizes a school is community. Again, some students from City Central School in Cagayan de Oro in the Philippines. We are all members of many communities and systems simultaneously. The community we choose to create in the school has a tremendous impact on educator and student happiness and achievement. So this is what I would put to you, is that culture is just as important as achievement. It's critical that we understand that when I say that we're members of many communities at the same time, so if I'm a teacher, I'm a member of my grade level. I'm a member of my teaching team. I'm also a member of the whole group of teachers at the school. I'm also a member of a community around the people I eat lunch with and the community of the people I speak to on the playground or in the parking lot. My community is then my church or temple or faith community at home. It's also whether or not I play sports or anything like that. So it's important to know that we move in and out of all of these communities throughout our days and weeks and months and years. So, but we have a special agency as educators in schools to create the type of communities we want, to shape the kind of culture that we hope to have in the school, and to make sure that what we're creating is a place where people are excited, where people are happy, where people can do their best work. The lesson here is that either intentionally or unintentionally, we're all influencing and influenced by community. So we are changing the people around us, and they are changing us. The next word is leadership. Now, leadership is a complicated thing. It's something that happens between leaders and followers, and it happens between people, not just something that administrators do to people or at people or that where they just give orders. Leadership is something co-constructed between leaders and followers. Importantly, everyone is a leader or a follower at different times. There are different sorts of things where, so for example, I used to be an English teacher. I feel comfortable leading in that space. But other people are mathematics teachers or science teachers. And when topics come up that have to do with those aspects of schooling, I need to step to the back and let them become a leader. Leaders also understand that they're part of systems that influence them and that they can influence. So using your power, using your authority, using the way you shape things as a leader really has to do with understanding that the things we do influence the kinds of education that happens in the school and the kinds of things that extend back out into the community and to different spaces where the education is happening. Another word that's critical is equity. Equity means distributing resources based on talents and needs. So it has to do with understanding that not everybody needs the same thing. Not everybody has the same talents. That what's really critical about looking at education through an equity lens is understanding that we need to move goods and resources around and distribute them in different ways based on what's going to be best for the students and the educators. So equity needs to be considered at all levels, the classroom, the school, the community. We need to be thinking carefully about where our resources are and where they're going to give the most benefit to our students, educators in the school. So the lesson here is that equity includes formal and informal decisions about the formal and hidden curriculum. It has to do with both the small conversations we have over a glass of water, and it has to do with the big ideas we have about school improvement plans for a year or into a 5-year cycle. Now I'm going to wrap up the presentation, so I'm going to conclude with a few questions that I'll put to you for everyone to consider as you go throughout the rest of the conference. In the end, what words would you use to describe an outstanding educator? We've discussed many. It's an important question to ask so we can reflect on and improve our practice, so we can continue to critically evaluate why we do what we do. But asking what words would you use to describe an outstanding educator is not the most important question we should be asking. The more important questions are, what 3 words would your students use to describe an outstanding educator? So we can have a certain conversation here, but you need to know what your students think a good educator, a good teacher looks like. What words would you agree on and where would you disagree with your students? What would they say makes a good teacher that you would say, yes, I agree with that? And which words would you say, I'm not so sure? Why is that? Why aren't they the same? And what 3 words will improve learning in individuals and organizations, which is really at the heart of what we're trying to do as educators. So a few lessons to finish us up for this session. Teaching is the most noble of professions. We shape the present and future of our communities and the world. It's a big responsibility and opportunity, right? Yes, we shape this enormous task every day through our small interactions with each other, our professionals, fellow professionals, and the students and communities we serve. Do we treat them with respect? Do we listen to and honor their ideas? Do we learn from those across the hallway and around the world, or do we ignore them? It's important to constantly reflect on the reasons we do what we do and think deeply about what is important so we don't lose sight of doing the right things for the right reasons. You too may find value in thinking about the 3 words that you aspire to embody as an outstanding educator. And with those words, I'll close my presentation. So thank you everyone for your attention and for listening. And I hope that you found some things to think about that were stimulating for you today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jeffrey Brooks, for your interesting keynote address entitled A New Paradigm for Teaching and Research in Times of Challenge. I think I have several questions from the participants. I hope you are ready to answer them. The first one is, at the classroom level, how do the school in Australia deal with education for their children during the pandemics of COVID-19 to make sure that they can maintain the quality and equity for all the students?
It's very difficult because most of the teachers and principals in Australia were never trained to teach completely online. So when we went into lockdown, we had several months where everybody was teaching from online. Now, in the beginning, this was very difficult. And what I would say our experience was that most of the schools and the teachers were giving too much work to the students who were also not used to learning in that kind of environment. So everybody was learning at home. In fact, my son is in the room right next door learning online right now. But it's a very difficult type of way of learning. So what they had to do is they had to learn some lessons. In the beginning, they gave far too much work. And then they learned it over time to give less and less and less, and to try to give quality education rather than just covering everything you would normally covering during the school day, which really isn't possible in an online environment that you haven't prepared for.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Brooke. I have another question here. As a new paradigm in the education setting at the present time, how can we ensure teaching efficacy among educators?
Yeah, it's very difficult. I think that one of the things to think about when it comes to teaching efficacy is that again, many teachers are not trained to do this type of teaching, whether it's fully online teaching. So we have to make sure, or if it's some kind of sheltering teaching where maybe students are social distancing or where they're wearing masks or something like that, that almost no one was trained to teach in that kind of environment. So what we have to do is we have to keep taking stock of what's happening and learn lessons as we move forward. So for many people, that's going to mean engaging more, asking more questions, rather than just teaching the way that they've always taught. I think that it's really critical also, we know now, that we check in on the well-being of the students, because I think that this has been a very difficult time for many of them when it comes to mental health, in addition to other types of aspects of education that we might regularly deal with.
Okay, I still have two questions for you, Dr. Brooke. Okay, the next one is, what do you think about the pros and cons of globalization in education? This is a very dramatic question.
Yeah, I think the pros are like I said, the pros are that we can now learn how to teach from people all over the world. And there's fantastic video resources. I can connect with people like you in Thailand, and we can share ideas. We can think about education. We can do work together. That's all fantastic. I think the biggest problem that globalization and localization have brought is making too much of what happens in education about competition. So there's too much of like, this country is better than that country in education. I think that that's a waste of time. I think we should all be working together. I don't think that competition is the way to improve education at all. So I think that's the sad part of it, is when we see, oh, look at the PISA scores or the TIM scores, or let's focus on, this country is higher ranked than that country. I think that is a waste of time. I just wish we would focus on using all these new modern tools to work better together.
Okay, and this is I think gonna be the last question for you.
Okay.
What do you mean by advocacy in the globalization to make it practical among educators?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that if you think about teaching students, the question is, how well do you get to know the students? Do you know the homes that the students go back to? Do you know the communities well that the students live in when they go back home? And so equity often means about understanding, which students have enough to eat, which ones need special services. Do they have access to educational materials? Do they have access to technology? All of those kinds of things. And then within the scope of what we know about the students, we try to help better their lives as much as we can. I think for me, making it practical begins with listening to the students and asking them questions about why their work looks the way it does, why they behave the way they do in the school, and why and whether or not everybody has the same opportunities as everyone else. I think the problem is when you don't pay attention to those kinds of things, when you don't ask those questions and talk to the students, you're not going to know. And there may be students who are not performing well in school, and they could do much better if you were just there to advocate for them and support them and help them.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Brook, for answering all the questions from the participants. And I would like to say thank you again for giving us the chance to listen to your informative keynote address. Thank you, Dr. Brook.
Thank you very much, and have a good conference, everyone.
อาจารย์บรรจัยค่ะก็จบไปแล้วนะคะสำหรับการบรรยายในหัวข้อกระบวนทัศน์ใหม่สำหรับการสอนและการวิจัยในช่วงเวลาแห่งความท้าทายซึ่งถ้าท่านผู้รับฟังหรือรับชมดูนะคะจะเห็นได้ว่าช่วงเวลาที่มีการเปลี่ยนแปลงนี้นะคะมีรูปแบบการเรียนการสอนอะไรต่างๆที่เปลี่ยนแปลงไปมากทั้งผู้สอนและผู้เรียนเนี่ยต้องมีการปรับตัวนะคะแล้วก็การวิจัยอะไรต่างๆก็เช่นเดียวกันจะต้องมีการปรับเปลี่ยนทั้งนี้เพื่อให้ตอบโจทย์ในการแก้ปัญหาของสังคมมากขึ้นนะคะจากที่ท่าน Professor Jeffrey S. Brook นะคะได้พูดไปเนี่ยมีหลายๆประเด็นทีเดียวที่ฉันรู้สึกว่าน่าสนใจนะคะเพราะว่าอย่างมีข้อความบางตอนที่ท่านบอกว่าresearch เนี่ยช่วยเราในการที่จะมองเห็นในสิ่งที่เรามองไม่เห็นนะคะบอกว่า research helps us see the unseen นะมีหลายเรื่องที่อาจจะอยู่เบื้องลึกลงไปซึ่งเรายังไม่ค้นพบนะคะแต่ว่าเมื่อเราทำการทดลองทำการวิจัยลงไปเนี่ยเรากลับพบในสิ่งที่เราอาจจะยังมองไม่เห็นด้วยตรงนั้นนะคะแล้วก็ในบางส่วนที่ท่านได้พูดถึงเรื่องว่าในส่วนของ community นะคะ we are all members of communities นะคะเราทุกคนเนี่ยเป็นสมาชิกของ community และในขณะเดียวกันถึงในโรงเรียนแล้วก็เช่นเดียวกันนะคะแล้วก็อีกสิ่งหนึ่งที่น่าสนใจนะคะในเรื่องของสิ่งที่ท่านได้นำเสนอไปนะคะก็คือว่าประโยคนี้นะคะว่า the best teachers are lifelong learners นะคะครูที่ดีค่ะต้องเป็นครูที่เป็นผู้เรียนตลอดชีวิตนะคะเราไม่สามารถจะหยุดนิ่งอยู่กับที่ได้โดยที่ไม่เรียนรู้อะไรเลยนะคะยิ่งในช่วงยุคที่เป็นโควิด -19 อันนี้นะคะยิ่งเป็นช่วงแห่งการที่เราจะต้องพัฒนาตัวเองแล้วก็เรียนรู้ไปมากมายนะคะทราบเลยว่าครูแต่ละคนเนี่ยจะต้องเจอกับปัญหาการที่จะต้องเรียนออนไลน์ต่างๆซึ่งทั้งครูและนักเรียนหลายๆส่วนนะคะทั้งในเมืองหรือในชนบทที่ห่างไกลเนี่ยเราจะเจอปัญหาคล้ายๆกันนะคะก็คือว่า1ในส่วนของเรื่องของอุปกรณ์นะสื่อเทคโนโลยีที่เราจะใช้หรือในส่วนของตัวครูตัวนักเรียนที่จะต้องพัฒนาตัวเองหรือปรับตัวให้เข้ากับการเปลี่ยนแปลงเหล่านี้นะคะซึ่งตรงนี้เนี่ยค่ะท่านก็บอกว่าโฟกัสเนี่ยมันต้องอยู่ที่การเรียนรู้มากกว่าการสอนนะคะครูเราเองก็ต้องเปลี่ยนในกระบวนการตรงนั้นนะคะทีนี้เราจะรู้ได้อย่างไรว่านักเรียนของเราเนี่ยกำลังเรียนรู้นะคะอันนี้เป็นอีกโจทย์หนึ่งที่คุณครูทั้งหลายก็คงจะต้องคิดนะคะว่าเราจะทำอย่างไรนะคะแล้วก็ในเรื่องของการสอนเนี่ยท่านบอกอีกว่ามันเป็น an act of caring but it is actually the heart of love นะคะมันเป็นหัวใจแห่งความรักนะคะเรารู้ว่าเราจะต้องสอนเราจะต้องทำอย่างไรที่จะทำให้ผู้เรียนเกิดความรู้ความเข้าใจนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นการเอาใจใส่ในสิ่งเหล่านั้นก็จะมีส่วนสำคัญเพราะฉะนั้นโรงเรียนเองก็น่าจะต้องมีส่วนที่ต้องปรับตัวเข้ามาหากันนะคะที่ในส่วนนี้ทั้งผู้สอนทั้งผู้เรียนนะคะเราก็จะเห็นว่ามีการเปลี่ยนแปลงนะคะแล้วก็ในส่วนของการวิจัยหรืออะไรต่างๆเราก็ต้องมามุ่งดูว่าเราต้องการเน้นในเรื่องอะไรเพื่อที่จะนำไปสู่นวัตศึกษาอย่างที่เราพูดถึงในตอนนี้นะคะว่ามันเป็นช่วงเวลาแห่งการท้าทายจริงๆนะคะเมื่อกี้ก็จะได้รับฟังในส่วนที่เป็นข้อคำถามนะคะซึ่งน่าสนใจมากทีเดียวนะคะที่เราจะต้องมาพูดคุยกันแล้วก็ลองมองไปด้วยกันพร้อมๆกันนะคะทีนี้ค่ะลำดับที่ หลังจากนี้ในช่วงบ่ายเราก็จะยังมีกิจกรรมต่างๆอีกนะคะส่วนของที่เป็นระดับชาตินะคะแล้วก็ระดับนานาชาติเราจะมีทั้งส่วนที่ระดับชาติก็จะมีการเสวนานะคะระดับนานาชาติเราก็จะมีการนำเสนอในห้องแต่ละห้องซึ่งก็จะมีการได้เรียนแจ้งในลำดับถัดไปอีกครั้งหนึ่งนะคะว่าเราจะมีการจัดกิจกรรมอะไรอย่างไรแต่ว่าในช่วงนี้นะคะก็อาจจะเป็นการประชาสัมพันธ์คร่าวๆไว้ก่อนว่าตามที่ได้เรียนนะคะว่าการจัดกิจกรรมของเราในปีนี้เนี่ยเป็นการจัดแบบออนไลน์เต็มรูปแบบนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นถ้าท่านที่รับชมรับฟังอยู่นะคะมีความสนใจอยากจะเข้ามาใน Facebook Live หรือว่า YouTube Live นะคะหรือจะกดไลค์กดแชร์นะคะรวมทั้งส่งสติ๊กเกอร์มาเป็นกำลังใจให้กับทีมในการจัดกิจกรรมในครั้งนี้ก็จะถือว่าเป็นการส่งเสริมให้กำลังใจซึ่งกันและกันนะคะก็จะเป็นช่วงที่ได้มีการพูดคุยได้มีการแลกเปลี่ยนนะคะหรือว่าเสนอแนะให้กับเราเพื่อในอนาคตเราจะได้นำไปดูแลปรับปรุงเพื่อให้การจัดการวิจัยหรือว่าการจัดเสวนาสัมมนาของเราเนี่ยเป็นไปได้อย่างดีมากขึ้นนะคะค่ะและลำดับถัดจากนี้ไปนะคะก็จะเป็นการบรรยายพิเศษนะคะในเรื่องของภาวะผู้นำเชิงนวัตกรรมเพื่อการศึกษาค่ะเดี๋ยวสักครู่ช่วงนี้นะคะขออนุญาตที่จะเป็นการพักช่วงหนึ่งเพื่อจะให้ท่านได้พักผ่อนตามอัธยาศัยสักครู่หนึ่งนะคะแล้วเราจะกลับเข้ามาพบกันอีกครั้งหนึ่งนะคะ
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a few minutes for a break and we come back to you later. So please join us later in a few minutes. Thank you.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
ค่ะขอต้อนรับทุกท่านกลับเข้าสู่โครงการประชุมวิชาการระดับชาติศึกษาศาสตร์วิจัยครั้งที่ 8 และนานาชาติครั้งที่ 4 นวศึกษาที่ยั่งยืนในช่วงเวลาแห่งความท้าทายของคณะศึกษาศาสตร์มหาวิทยาลัยสงขลานครินทร์ในอีกช่วงหนึ่งนะคะและลำดับถัดจากนี้ไปนะคะจะเป็นการบรรยายพิเศษค่ะในเรื่องภาวะผู้นำเชิงนวัตกรรมเพื่อการศึกษาที่ยั่งยืนโดย Professor Dr. Hamdan bin Said ก่อนอื่นนะคะขออนุญาตที่จะกล่าวถึงประวัติของท่านวิทยากรโดยสังเขปดังนี้ค่ะ Now let me introduce brief information about our distinguished speaker. Dr. Hamdan is now a head of Higher Education Research Group, School of Education, Faculty of Social Science and Humanities, University Technology Malaysia in Malaysia. For his academic background, in 1989, he got his bachelor degree of Science with Education Mathematics, University Technology Malaysia in Malaysia. 1996, he got his Master of Education for Leadership and Management in Queensland University of Technology in Australia. And in 2006, he got a PhD or Doctor of Philosophy for Higher Education Management in Idaho State University, USA.
As for Dr. Hamdan publication, he has published about 41 ISI and Scopus Index articles, 25 non-index journal articles, 7 chapters from a book chapter and 2 books, and he presented more than 100 conference papers around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Dr. Hamdan bin Said for the keynote address entitled Innovative Leadership in Sustainable Education. Please welcome Dr. Hamdan.
ค่ะขอเชิญรับชมได้เลยค่ะ
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Thank you also to the organizer for this international conference on education. I will be glad to join you today to share with you our experience in promoting innovative leadership for sustainable education. Before that, I would like also to thank Prince Songkla University for kindly organize this international level conference on education to enable us to share, to meet online of what is happening on the world right now and what is going to be happen in the future. The topics given to me is commensurate to what I'm doing right now, that is innovative leadership for sustainable education. Since this topic is a broad topic, I would like to share with you today in a smaller scopes to see what is happening in Malaysia with regard to innovative leadership for sustainable education. Before I proceed with the presentation, we would like to give you warmest regards from UTM community. We'd like to share with you what is our statistic like. I know that we are in the time that almost everyone's not happy. The time that we are hampered with COVID-19 pandemics. Nevertheless, we need to move on. At the time being, UTM have 24,704 for the total environments of students. With that, we have 15,526 undergraduate students, and then we have more than 4,000 master students, and also close to 5,000 PhD students. And we have nearly 5,000 international students. Before COVID-19, actually, in 2019, we have more than 5,000 international students, and Thailand would be our great supplier of international students too. And thank you to Thailand. Yeah? But COVID-19 has changed the demographic of the student structure. Not only international students, but also the local students. you must understand that some of them lost their income. Yeah, so therefore they cannot proceed with their studies. Currently, we still have 4,906 total staff. That includes 1,679 academic staff and almost 1,500 academic staff with PhD. Our administrative staff is almost double of the, more than double of the academic staff. Yeah? And for the past, since commencement of this university, so far we have produced close to 200,000 alumni. Currently, at the time of speaking, we still have more than 2,500 students remaining in UTM Johor Bahru campus. These students, the majority of them, almost 2,000 plus of them, come from a remote area, yeah, very remote area where their internet facility is problematic. Yeah, they have poor internet, either poor connected internet connection, or there is no internet at all. So therefore, they come to campus, but unfortunately, the government has imposed what we call a movement control order. And today is the first day we start what we call a total lockdown. Once again, after we noticed that the numbers of cases infected with COVID-19 increased sharply. Although UTM has been, started in 1972, we still maintain the size of the lands. Yeah? So we are having 1,148 hectares of land. So we are the second largest campus after UPM. And for undergraduates, students, from first year up to fourth year, they are staying in a hostel. We have nearly 15,000 rooms for the students. Yeah? But we have limited numbers of merit houses. For time of speaking, we were informed we already have 200 merit houses. Yeah? So back to these topics for today. And I'm going to present to you today through the following channel. Yeah. The first one, we will talk about the synergy horizon that UTM is undertaking in order to make our campus a lively campus. Yeah. And then we will talk about the what we call the academic program review, and this is where innovative leadership is being promoted throughout the level of the system. Yeah? Because we believe that without this innovative leadership, we cannot move further and faster. Okay. All right. And then we will touch a bit on the research that we do in order to make our curriculum more flexible and dynamics. And we also will share about the challenges that we face currently with the COVID-19. And supposedly, our new curriculum supposed to be commented by this coming months, meaning that the second session or the first session of 2021, 2022. We are still waiting for the government now approval, whether we can proceed with it or we have to delay because of the COVID-19. So let me begin with a journey of this a journey of synergy. Previously, for your information, UTM is having operated through 18 sub-discipline faculties. 18, a big number. So we have 18 faculties. Imagine that when we have 18 faculties. So like many other universities in the world, each faculty was led by one dean. And then based on the numbers or size of the faculty, the dean will be assisted by 2 to 3 deputy deans. And as you can see down there, for the faculty elected engineering, you have 5 big faculties. And then you have also in science and technology, you have 6 faculties altogether. And then finally, you have social sciences with 6 faculties as well. Sorry, 7 faculties. Okay. So on top of that, we have what we call ETM space. So this is where our continuing and professional education. This is one wing of a university that look after it. In addition to that, we have also research entities. This is national and international level. Imagine that how we cope with all those things. Yeah. So every time we wanted to conduct meetings, yeah, we have difficulty because it will involve at least 18 deans. But if you plus 8 deans with the deputy deans, you're going to have more than 50 people. So this is very difficult to move. Yeah? So therefore, based on some problem that we encountered, yeah, or some internal issues that we are experiencing, so the few leaders, which I call innovative leaders, they think about what should be the future of universities. What would be the education like for delivered by the universities? So we have gathered together and we found out that there are many issues that we are experiencing. This is just to manage 25,000 students. So one of the issues is about how to ensure sustainable education, how to reduce isolation among faculty members. We have issues about internal collaboration and cooperation. We also have issues on ways to reduce tasks and job duplication. And we also have issues related to efficiency among staff and other issues like performing delivery organization. We would like it to be fast and fast mode. And then we have problem also with the body of knowledge itself, how to minimize the body of knowledge, because every single faculty will try to cover or to maintain their turf. Yeah? And then we also found that we have issues related to mechanistic of thinking of knowledge, yeah, as well as a skill. All right. And on top of that, we're being chased by the government to produce globally marketable graduates, as well as we're being asked to move faster and highly impactful by others. But so all these issues inspire us or motivate us or urge us to take a drastic action to change or to transform the universities. But we don't like to use the word transform. We more enjoy to use the word strategy rather than the transform. So we combine certain numbers of faculties into one big faculty. For example, all engineering related faculties is combined into one or synergized into one, they become engineering faculty. And then we combine also a few schools under the Faculty of Sciences and Humanities. We have Language Academy, Islamic Civilization Faculty. We have also School of Psychology and Human Resource and Ecology. And we put it together under Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanity. And we also have Faculty of Built Environment and Surveying. We combine 2 faculties. And business school, we take some faculty members from School of Computing. And then the same things happen to the others. So eventually we left with the 7 faculties with 7 deans. So then we have 2 deputy deans or 3 deputy deans. So that is much smaller than the 18 faculties. Okay? So the 7 faculties have a broad-based, it is a broad-based faculties. So next, in the middle of Synergy, in the middle of Synergy 4.0, we found that we also need to review our program for sustainable education. Without reviewing, we still maintaining our own turf, our own working in isolation. So with that, we developed and we set up several task force. Yeah. So one task force will look into various aspects. All right. And then for example, we asked one task force to look into how can we develop holistic and entrepreneurial and balanced graduates. Yeah. So each task force will conduct their own studies, and the budget is given either by the faculty or by the university itself. Okay? But we also, at the same time, actually receive one research grant from the ministry in order for us to try this new type of faculties. Yeah? So this 10 element or 10 shift, this is written in the Malaysian blueprint for higher education. Yeah? And we also, along the way, we are focusing on what has been written in Malaysian qualification frameworks. At that time, the ASEAN quality framework is not ready yet. We're talking about 2017, 2018. ASEAN quality framework published in 2020. Yeah. We also look into the what we call sustainable development goals, and then all the buzzwords related to digitalization, Internet of Things, smart city, disruption. So we develop a task force to look after all these aspects. And we also develop a task force to look into what would be the future job trends look like. And we, from time to time, invited speakers, internal as well as the international speakers to come over to our campus to share with us what is their prediction, their studies about the future job trends. We also invite employers, national and multinational companies to campus. We also visited big industries to see how the work being done. At the same time, we collect data from the World Economic Forum, which talk about the need of university to change their paradigm in many aspects, which I will elaborate a bit more after this. Yeah? And then we also goes into the some literature in talking about what would be the university in future look like. Okay? So based on that literature, we noticed that we already taken some actions. Yeah, we already taken some action based on our synergy initiative. Yeah? Our synergy initiative. For example, we already changed the structure of the organization, right? From 18 to 7 just now. We also actually indirectly we also changed the what we call the department. Yeah? So some department is no longer there. Some department has been transformed into other category. They might become a unit only. Yeah? And also we have introduced what we call a multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary academic program. And next to that, we also already in the picture to change our teaching methods. We already introduced along about 2 or 3 years ago the what we call a flip classroom, and then we already upgrading. We asked the university to upgrade the campus facilities based on our findings, research finding. And we already developed some policies related to teaching and learning. We also have introduced what we call accreditation procedure, which we share with Malaysian Quality Assurance Agency. Yeah. So some of the academic program, certain percentage maybe no need to go to the Malaysian qualification agencies to get the approval. Yeah. So that is being agreed on. And the procedure also, we talk about the changing in terms of procedure also with the agency. Alhamdulillah, they agree with that. Another part that we take into consideration is a new learning infrastructure. Not only infrastructure, but also we change the infrastructure. But along the way, we actually, at that particular time, we focus so much on our campus, we unable to see and unable to predict what is going to happen in the country if the country is experiencing what we have now, the pandemics. Because along the way, when we look at the literature, we look at what is happening in the world, we see that from the eyes of those who are in a comfortable zone. We see that everything is in a very synchronized, harmoniously. We don't predict that our country, Malaysia, Thailand, and all over the world is being hampered by pandemics. So that is our loophole at that particular time. Yeah. And then on top of that, we also look into the innovative universities. We look into what they have done. And one of the university that we look closely is what we call that Stanford University. Yeah. If you guys look into the Stanford University, you will find that they have developed what we call Stanford 2025. Okay, I strongly encourage you, those of you in education and would like to proceed further in management or higher education, please take a look at the Stanford 25, where this university managed to produce a 4-year program that can last for 30 years. Okay, they can last for 30 years. So they don't have to review their program in 30 years' time. This is something that, to me, is something extraordinary. Because for the past 20 or 25 years in this university, every circle of our program will go through this what we call a full review on program. Of course, there are changes here and there based on the review. But how come this Stanford 2425 managed to produce that? And the report from this article mentioning about, because they have foreseen that what can happen in 30 years, they managed to save money, save energy, save manpower to do the review. So once review can last for 25 years. This is something new. Another thing is we managed to develop what we call life science curriculum, by combining it with other things. So this is something that not many university are able to do that. And then what they call engineering biology program that allows students to design their own life form on computers. And this is, to me, is also something new. And we have decided that we will invite speakers from these universities to share with us how they do it. Okay, this is one universities. We have also we look also from Singapore Higher Education 4.0, where we noticed that Singapore Higher Education aggressively focusing on sustainable education, right? So not only they are focusing on the education itself, they also focusing on the nation as a whole. All right. So what happened is that they revamped the policy on education. So they produced what we call Smart Nation Singapore or Skill Future Singapore. Okay? And they established a new higher education institution. And then some of them, they are upgrading that. And then they also deepen and intensify international connection with top universities. You will be so surprised. NTU, for example, having a lot of connections, a lot of programs from other well-known university, which not many university in the world are able to do that. And then they also have a program that can build a strong digital capabilities among the students. And after we went through and see what is going to happen to others universities in Europe, in America, and as well as in our neighbors, Singapore, then we look back to what we ourselves having. So we noticed that we have a strong culture as well. So we have what we call UTM core values. So we believe that with these core values, if we can share strongly with everyone on the campus as well as on the community at large, the university also can move further. Number one. Number two, our education also become more sustainable. And number three, our employability rate also will become larger. Okay. And then we also look into ourselves. What is our strength? We analyze that, and we know that we are not far from anyone, and we already have some what do you call that? Roadmaps for where we want to go. Okay, so we will use this strength to move further. All right. For example, we already have some prominent figures. We are number one at that particular time in Malaysia in terms of social sciences. Just second, number two is Muslim Malaya at that time. We also have more than 60% capacities of producing research. We also very high, I mean, for the highest numbers of patent in the country, right? And we also have the second highest enrollment in Malaysia. Right? So with this strength, then we realign our role, in university's role to the community. So this is what I shared last time with Prof. Dr. Ekarin regarding similarities between Malaysian universities and universities in Thailand. So there are many similarities. For example, the one that we must acknowledge is our role to the society. Our role to the society. We are being tasked to do that. Unlike universities in Singapore, because the universities has been, the country is progressing, with a good income and so on, a good GSDP. So their higher education doesn't have to put 1/3 of their effort for poverty reduction. Whereas higher education in Malaysia as well as in Thailand, we have to focus on these two. In fact, in Malaysia, we have been tasked to look after students with low-income families, students from low-income families, and in Malaysia we call it B40. Okay, B40 means their income is below $750 a month. Family income, not her father's income. Family income per month, $750 per month. All right, regardless of where they come from, or regardless where they are located. Okay, but some other countries are not like that. For example, in US, UK, poverty is no longer their main issue, whereas ours has become a main concern. And then we review our plan. Okay, this is our journey for the curriculum review. So we started 2017. At that time, we are still in the denial stage. We always think that our curriculum is best, curriculum is good. But then during the synergy and the process of synergy, we found that, oh, no, we are no longer good. Any school, any universities can always conquer us. Any universities can overtake us. So there we do something about it. And then we started with the research, which I can share with later on. But after we completed our research in 2020, this also happened sharing with the deans last time. Then we have an issues, how to begin, because 2020s and 2020s we are hampered with COVID-19 pandemics. So that's we are still putting that on hold. Although the curriculum is almost ready, and we're just waiting for the approval, but we cannot this time proceed. So we have to depend on the previous curriculum. So based on that's issues and then some background, so we develop what we call a future-ready curriculum framework for Malaysia. So we conduct a study based on these three paradigms or these three categories. All right. So we wanted to at the end we wanted to produce what we call organic and flexible curriculum structure, where the student can come at any time and looking at the roadmap, they can pick up some of the courses that relevant to them at that particular time. And we also wanted to introduce a flexible and non-conventional curriculum, and then we would like to form a strong industry partnership, where we see that some countries like South Korea managed to do that. And we noticed that a few universities in Korea managed to have 100% employability rate within 6 months of graduation. And then we wanted to have our curriculum to be a bit global. So, and then the delivery, we wanted it to be a transformative delivery, where this student can choose whichever focus that they would like to focus. And then hopefully we also try to produce what we call alternative assessment. Alternative assessment over here. So to do the research, we divided the research into 6 projects, as written in the screen right now. As written in the screen right now. This is our research projects, and alhamdulillah, as I mentioned just now, we receive a grant from the faculty, from the university, as well as from the government. So this research project is meant to transform the curriculum. And then after several 2 years, I think we conduct the research, and this is what we are able to produce. This is what we're able to produce. So we're able to produce what we call excellent in learning and teaching and transformative campus experience, based on the research that we have conducted. Of course, having a research is one thing, but delivering the finding of the research is another thing. So along the way, based on the general outcome of the studies that we found, we try to match back with what the government initiate, and we found that it teach much nicely. So what we call holistic student development, we merge very, very, very nicely. And then the specific outcome based on the research for the faculty, So we managed to produce what we call a roadmap. So each faculty, based on the research that we have done, we managed to produce a roadmap. So this roadmap is based on faculties, because the knowledge that they wanted to deliver and skill that they want to deliver might be a little bit different. The sample here I'm showing to you is my own faculty, Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities. So here to show that the student from the first year, they can think about what they want to be, what courses they want to take next. So if they have the intention that after they completed their master's and their first degree, they wanted to go to master's level, so they can take a few courses at 500 level, what we call FRISM. So these these subjects, elective subject, but it is applicable to undergraduate as well as the master's level. So once they agree to move on to the master's level, they will be able to shorten their learning period. Okay, this is one for FSH, Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities. Okay, but then having that, how do we execute that? So as a leader, we have to think about, you have a program, you have the curriculum, and then you have the roadmap. So how do you execute that? So this is actually the most, to me, the most difficult part, because during the planning stage, not everyone involved, right? Only certain people that are involved in the planning stage. But in the execution stage, execution or running of the program, everybody will be involved, right? So how you do that? So in other words, how do you get people to buy in your ideas? Okay. So there are many times we conduct what we call team buildings, and we also conduct trainings. We already prepared some training to faculty members, and bear in mind that this training is given when the semester is in session, when the semester is going on. So therefore, we have to conduct several numbers of training. And from time to time, we involve also some studios to record the what they call that good practices or best practices, so that our people, our lecturers and students as well, they can refer to. We develop Need Help Center. We develop training program in in a harmonious mode. We put a series of training in the book of training to match with their schedule. Okay, and then time to time we show the percentage of people who have gone through the training, who are already ready to proceed with a new curriculum. And you're giving the training also one thing, and some people they after going through 2 or 3 training, they maybe become bored. Therefore, we call top people to come over. We asked our vice chancellor to come over to give talks. We also invited our speaker from Ministry of Education, the General Director General of Ministry of Education, to come over to give talk to our faculty member. We also call people from this Cambridge University as our adjunct professors. We also involve practitioner, employers, 500 series companies, to come over to give talks. We also have our own star, we call it our own star, who are good in YouTube, YouTuber, and we also invite and train our own student, as influencer, to influence people, to inspire people, to motivate people. And last but not least, we want our own deans of faculty to show the example and walk the talk. So this is our dean, small but very energetics. And to blend old and new people, so we call our very senior professor, those already retired, but with the emeritus status, to come over to join in to push people forwards. So as you can see over here, it's a blend of new and young, not very young, and then very seniors people as well. And this is, to me, is a very nice planning to me, because everybody realized that they cannot escape. And then the question comes from the, I don't know whether it is a PSU or from my own university, asking me, Prof, is it smooth going? There's no challenge? Meaning that everybody can accept? No. Actually, it's not like that. We also receive some challenges. Yeah. Some people think about, hey, well, our curriculum is good already. Why should you change? Okay, number one. Number two, there are people who are saying that, no, look, Hamdan, you are in higher education. How many of our people, our graduates, jobless? Things like that. They're asking you things like that. And then they also, some people coming from the society asking us, hey, you change this curriculum, how good will be your student? Are they get a better job? Are they getting a higher pay? Or this kind of questions sometimes demoralize you and challenge you. But because we managed to set up a few times, we have, I think 3 times, we have what we call town hall, where we put on the screen, on the whiteboard, on the blue board as well. And then we share with others, what is their concern if we make things happen and we change all those things. And alhamdulillah, we managed to tackle that. But the only thing, as I mentioned just now, stuck us is we are, at that particular time, failed to think about these pandemics. What will happen if the country, the whole country, in fact, the whole world is down with the pandemics? Yeah. Of course, on campus, we have no problem, no issue. Yeah, not much issue. Our facilities has been upgraded. We have 100% internet connectivity on campus. But I mentioned just now, we are being asked, we are being tasked by the government to help develop the society. So we have low income, so families, about 1/3 of them, and they are living in a remote area, as I mentioned to you, where they have internet connection issues. They have also personal challenges. For example, families being retrenched because of not many industries is working. Yeah, many working sectors are not functioning fully. Okay, all the things. There are some students also living in small houses where they don't have adequate facilities to fix with the internets. So these are the problem. But how do we tackle this problem? One of them I mentioned just now is that we are asking this student to come on campus. Okay, we provide the campus provide them with 100% internet connectivity. Some because unable to travel due to the total lockdown or total moment control order. So we joined with other universities. So we asked this student to go that particular universities, whichever their houses close to that particular universities. And then we make an MOU within these universities that we cater their student, they cater our student. So this mutual agreement has been received. Alhamdulillah, at this time, we are able to do that. We are not so sure if this thing persists in a longer mode. We don't know what's going to happen yet. But hopefully, let's pray together that this COVID-19 pandemic will, see the door to end, so that we can continue our studies, continue our new program in a more harmonious modes. Yeah. With that, Thank you very much. Once again, thank you to the organizer. Thank you to the Madam Chairperson for the great presenting today, great presentation today. And thank you also to the audience for your attentive ears to listen to this presentation. Thank you very much. You need to you turn off your mic. You need to on your mic.
Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Hamdan, for your informative keynote address. I think
we cannot hear you. You turn off your mic. You have to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you now.
Okay. I will say thank you so much again for your informative keynote address. And I think we have here two questions from the participants who joined us online. Okay. The first question is, as innovative leadership for sustainable education, how can we ensure teaching efficacy among educators in this current education setting?
Do you want me to read all the questions, or you want to answer one question after another?
One by one, I think is better.
Okay. This is a very good question, a very interesting question actually. Yeah. Now, we have to understand that learning is not for ourselves. We have to put in mind that when we learn something, we would like to contribute back to the society. Yeah. So we can contribute back to society in a various mode. Number one, we share what we already acquired, what we already achieved. Yeah. So that the society at large know that we go to certain universities, we go to certain places to study, and that what we study is meaningful not only to the person who learn, but also those who are close to the person who learn. Therefore, we can make the things happen. Let me share with you about this. When our community, not far from here, it's about 1 hour drive. This community live close to the river, and irresponsible people, a few irresponsible people has throw their garbage, throw their poisonous chemical into the river. So that community is suffered very much, because their environment has been polluted, right? Therefore, but a few students from the university, take the initiative, yeah, because they know that whatever happened to the community is not shared, is not assisted by the so-called known people, nothing will happen. So in order to make sure that the knowledge that they learn is meaningful, these students take the initiative. Yeah, they go to YouTube, they go to the TikTok and so on to disseminate this news, disseminate this problem. And because of their action, this is done by the student. And because of their action, to me, is a very novel, very brave. It forced many agencies, many government agencies, many private sectors, many universities to jump the wagon, try to help. If you don't offer, for example, a very good education, if you don't offer a sustainable education where you can connect one point to the other, where you can think as a system, yeah, and when you can think as a system, not only for yourself, therefore, I don't think the student will do that. To me, the Kim River that happened to Malaysia, where it infected a huge, almost one district, it was infected, and schools were closed at that time. And all schools were closed at that time in that particular area for 2 weeks. But because of the student has been, university student has been trained about the importance of sustainable education, where it requires you to think as a system. One body affected, it will affect another body. Therefore, they manage to do that, and they use all means. I'm telling you, they use all means, including the newspaper. They make noise. And this is what we wanted to produce in our country, either, in fact, in this world, we want to produce people like this, who are brave enough, who are, dare enough to take that challenge, at the same time, be responsible. Thank you.
Okay, Professor, thank you for your answer. I still have 3 questions for you. Do you want me to give it to at once or one by one?
Let's go one by one then, if
okay.
you have, because you already started with one by one.
Okay. The second question here is, what are the challenges of sustainable education in this current situation?
Oh, wonderful. Well, actually, we can say, if you look at the challenges, yeah, there are small and big challenges. But let me put this way, rather than see that as a challenge for the country, put that as a challenge to ourselves, okay? To a challenge as ourselves. There are things that we can overcome it, there are things that we are unable to overcome it. Now, one of the challenges that you will face later on is, to me, the biggest one is we are unable to see the knowledge that we learn as continue from one particular knowledge. Knowledge has been delivered to the student as isolation, discontent. Yeah. So many of us unable to think. Because of that, we are unable to think about what happened in one particular country will affect in another country. So we thought that if things happen in Malaysia, it will not happen in Thailand. There are many communities leaders and also the people who think that whatever happened in Thailand will not happen to Malaysia. No, that's not the case. Yeah, that's not the case. The same thing. There are also some old folks think about if they do something or dumping the poisonous material just now I mentioned in the Kim River, so that therefore they will not affect other river, will not affect other people. No, that's not true. Yeah, it's not true. So that's the most important part, where our students, our graduates must be able to see that this knowledge is actually continuity from one knowledge after another. So they should be able to connect that. Okay, that's number one. Number two is they have two ways to think about. Okay, either they wanted to have divergent thinking or closed thinking. But divergent thinking enables them to see a challenge in a broader perspective. If we see that the problem from a broader perspective, we can find a way to solve it. But if we can see it in only one particular direction, we have so much hurdle to solve it. That's number two. Number three is, if we can, our problem number three is we are, and I think not separate, it's just a challenge to us, is how can we work together? Okay? How can we work together in a meaningful way? Meaningful way with high impacts. Okay? This is not, many of us can do that. Although, theoretically, we say that we are able to do that, but based on my own experience, when we put that into practice, either in the classroom as well as outside the classroom, that is easier said than done. So I think one of the ways that we can overcome this is having more interactive activities in the class, and then also interactive activities with the community. So we should, as a faculty member, we should give our students some program which enable them to go through society and practice what they have learned, in the classroom in a bigger scale. In a bigger scale. What I foresee now, and the challenge is how to do that. The challenge is how to do that, because our most universities, including UTM, before this, our curriculum are so structured, so structured that everybody have to take the same thing on the same time. this shouldn't be the case anymore. From this my presentation just now, we should given a chance for students, for example, to have 2 years industry training, and then they come back to the campus. So maybe they can spend 2 years on campus and 2 more years in industry. What we call 2U to I. So that's one way they can do that. Another thing is if they have, they can take time off. Okay, take 1 year time off, for example, to do whatever business they wanted to do. To test the 3 years or the 2 years knowledge that they have learned and knowledge and skill they have learned to maybe, for example, to set up their own setup companies on a business. So this is the way to ensure that they can see that whatever theory, knowledge, and skill that they acquire in the classroom is relevant to the outside of the classroom. What we are portraying to our students, and most of the time that I can see that is we are so theoretical, not very grounded to the earth. And when the student goes to the real life, goes outside the campus, they see things very different. It's not real, right? So this, and then the fourth thing we can do is maybe giving them some hands-on activity, or what we call experiential learning, more experiential learning. And this is in UTM campus we trying to do that, and more program toward that. So we also prepare one center for the students to try out their ideas. So that's just, I can share some challenges that we face to materialize what we have delivered to the students.
Okay, the third question, I think you have shared with us some of the of what you said, but I'm gonna ask you this question again. If university in other countries want to implement the proposed framework, what factors they need to consider for the success of the program?
I missed one of the few words that you mentioned. Sorry, here it's rain heavily now. We miss. Your connection is sometimes missing. Can you say it again?
Do you want me to repeat it again?
Yeah, repeat the question, please.
If universities in other countries want to implement the proposed framework, what factors they need to consider for the success of the program?
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for those who are asking the question. I really believe that you have the inspiration to be somebody who are different, and thank you for that. And I strongly encourage you to pursue the matter. If you are at the graduate level right now, please go to the masters and do your PhD, do in that particular topic. And I'm telling you, you will be engrossed and enjoy this thing because you are the thinker and the implementer at the same time. Now, whatever framework in Malaysia may not be suitable to be implemented in Thailand. Whatever framework I mentioned just now, framework in Singapore, although I take a look into it, I mean the whole committee take a look into it, may not suitable to Thailand and Malaysia. The framework in US, advanced countries, with outstanding mindset, very open, easy to debate, seeing debate as a norm, may not be suitable to be put into the framework of Thailand or Malaysia without adaptation. So there are changes need to be done. So my suggestion is, number one, I suggest strongly that you have to conduct the study. Conduct the study first, how to do it. What factor look into it. In our case, because our blueprint is very clear, and I also involved in drafting the blueprint. So therefore, the blueprint of higher education, therefore I know what is inside the blueprint. But only a few people like me who involved directly, but those who are not involved, they have to read the blueprint, right? or we have to deliver to them what is the content of the blueprint. But the country without the blueprint for higher education, or unclear blueprint, or very old blueprint, for example, need to conduct the research on that. As I mentioned just now, although we have the blueprint, we still conduct the research because we wanted all types of stakeholders to know what is happening. We want to get the first-hand information from the employer, from the people who are infected, from the higher education supplier or provider, from the alumni, those who are supporting the universities very well. Those current students, they also have their own aspiration. That's why in my research, my group research, a big research we conduct, we involve a student council. Student council participate, although they are young, but they are, you'll be so surprised, they are become the most workaholic because they understand, we inform them, we share with them, we describe to them what is happening. They become engrossed into it. And they make me be so surprised because I thought that they don't care. But the proof that we are wrong, they care very much. They wanted to be part of the team. And they become the what I call just now, influencer. So they're willing to go to the community, talk to the community. They are the one. I mean, people like us, old people, we've been lack of energy to do that anymore. We may give some ideas, we may give some advice, but to be in the ground, these are the young blood who ready to sacrifice their time, sacrifice their effort to do that. And this is one thing that you need to do, conduct the research. Of course, also you need to look into what will be the aspiration of the ministry, aspiration of the government, and then the non-governmental organization, including regulatory agencies. And in our case, we have to consult Board of Engineers, MBOT, this technical part, and then we also conduct meeting with vocational, technical boards. We also have the environmental agencies, and also we have these what we call NGOs, to get their views, and not to forget these what we call that teachers association. In Malaysia, teacher association is very strong. I don't know much about the Thailand, but in Malaysia, this association is very strong. They can influence the government, and many times they did that. So you collect this information from all these stakeholders. We call it stakeholders, and then we analyze the data, and then you present it to them. Okay, and this is what we did. We presented to them. Of course, they kind of the first few times you can see that they are arguing, or this should be more, this should be less. That is very good. But you don't have to wait until everyone agree. There's no way everyone can agree in one point. But as long as the majority of them agree, then you can proceed with that. So after you have the information based on your research, only then you develop frameworks. So this framework, after you completed it, you should also share with this community. Sometimes community, they go against you, not because they wanted to go against, but because of they are unclear. They are being left out. They thought that they're being marginalized. They thought they are not important. But once you put them in the same boat, and make them that this is very important for the country to move on, inshallah, they will join you. They will support your effort. As I mentioned just now, although we started off a small group, but eventually we received a grant from the ministry to conduct this research, because the ministry see that this is a very important. So try as possible get the influence from this ministry. So because ministry need people to draft them some policies, rules and regulation, guidelines. So all people need that. So once we have conducted studies, we analyze that, and then they receive the framework, only then you develop the new curriculum. But again, to develop the new curriculum will take time. So please give yourself some time. Yeah, because once you develop the curriculum, do not expect that that curriculum will be accepted by the faculty member 100%. No way. Okay. I talked to professor from the Cambridge University just now. That I mentioned in my presentation. We also discussed with the Director General of Education. We also discussed with people from Stanford universities. Yeah. So they inform us that no way you can you can be accepted. Your idea, your framework can be accepted if people not are clear with that. So in order for them to buy in your idea, you may have to conduct as what we call town hall. Town hall is what we call town hall is you develop posters. You call people. It's like an open day. People ask questions, jump in. People can raise their concern and you address their concern. Okay, Alhamdulillah, it will work. After you consulted these people 2 or 3 times, once they understand it. So once they understand it, inshallah, they will support you. I said many research shows that people sometimes do not support you, not because they don't want to support you, or they fail to support you, or because they disagree to support you, but sometimes because of ignorance. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have a clear picture. They see that it is this thing uncertainty, but once they buy in your idea, they understand it clearly. Inshallah, they will support you. Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you, Professor. I still have 2 questions for you here. The next one is, how can we reduce the educational disparities in our country, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, this is it's not only happen in Thailand, it's happened also in Malaysia. During my presentation, I inform you about nearly one third of our undergraduate students coming over came from the very poor family, or I can say low income family, not to say very poor, low income family, with an income less than $750 per month. This is family income, not individual income, family income. So meaning that with that 750, they may have to share with 4 or 6 people in the house. Okay. Now, so it's very difficult. Yeah, we have to acknowledge that. But the government of Malaysia, had already set up the fund. This fund has been set up more than 10 years ago, where the student can apply loan for this fund, to go to universities or to go to college that recognized by the government. Okay, that's one thing. Number 2, for PSU, Prince Songkla University, I strongly encourage, and maybe you already have that, what I call endowment, education endowment. Yeah, this education endowment, you collect donation from your alumni, from your stakeholders, from the merchants, from business people, those who already understand what is education for. And Alhamdulillah, so far, UKM, for the past, I think since 2010, we already started this endowment. And Alhamdulillah, I think about 88% student from this low economics family, or I can call it B40 family, they receive from time to time financial assistance through this endowment. So this endowment, we collect the money and we invest the money, and the profit that we get from the endowment or from the investment, the profit that we get from the investment, and then we share with the student. We don't use the what do you call that, the one that donated to us. We don't use that one. We just use the profit margin that we make from the investment. So investment in many ways in UTM, the money that we collected, we invest in many aspects, and alhamdulillah so far it brings as very useful to us. And then we give back to the student. That's I think your alumni. I noticed that PSU also have huge numbers of alumni. Yeah? And when I went to Bangkok last time, I met a few that become very successful. I think if you can approach them nicely and talk about the beauty of endowment, which helping people, yeah, and where the endowment money will go. All right, inshallah, you will get some people who are willing to do so. I think that is one thing. And there's this endowment money also currently, what we did with the endowment money is that since the student cannot come to campus because of the lockdown, because of the MCO, Movement Control Order, so we pay for their data. Okay, so we every month we send some money to the student, okay, for their data, okay, because they are unable to come to campus. Number one. So number three. Number four is the student when they wanted to join our campus last time, they pay full pay, right? So they pay the full amount of money. But then because of these facilities, they use limited facilities. So we convert, we take a portion from the tuition fee, we give back to the students. So that they have more time, more money to spend for the learning part. The other one is we also have opportunity. We work together with the internal review board, internal review board, which eventually gives some concession, where we use the money to buy laptop for students. So I mentioned just now about this low-income family, so their level of poverty reaching the level that they are unable to buy a laptop for their children. Imagine that. But that is the duty. That is our being tasked. Universities are being tasked. Public universities being tasked by the government to help these people so that they have eventually having a better life, right? So we considered that like a few, I think last February, we distributed 1,000 laptop to the students. Okay. Of course, we consider that as an investment. And we personally tell the student that this is money come from endowment where it is donated by people. So they need to be responsible, hopefully, and with a speech that when they completed their studies later on and they get a good job, make sure that they donate also some money for other people. And at this time of speaking, we managed to convene people, and our students, alhamdulillah, so far become very grateful because they're being helped, being assisted. And I believe in the future also they will try to assist others as well. And I strongly believe PSU and other universities in Thailand. I'm talking about not only my universities, other universities are doing the same thing because they also already have some millions of endowments, some million of endowment. Okay, I hope I can answer your questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Hamdan, for taking your valuable time and answering the question from our participant. I would like to say thank you again. Once again, we hope we can meet again in the near future for any international conference. Thank you.
Thank you to you.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
ค่ะก็จบไปแล้วนะคะสำหรับการบรรยายในหัวข้อภาวะผู้นำเชิงนวัตกรรมเพื่อการศึกษาที่ยั่งยืนซึ่งจากการฟังที่ท่านวิทยากรได้พูดนะคะจะเห็นว่าบทบาทของผู้นำในการขับเคลื่อนนวัตกรรมเป็นสิ่งที่สำคัญมากในภาวะปัจจุบันนะคะ เราอาจจะต้องไปดูถึงเรื่องแผนการศึกษาชาติไปดูถึงเรื่องของแผนของมหาวิทยาลัยหรือว่าหลักสูตรรวมไปถึงโปรแกรมต่างๆระบบการเรียนการสอนแล้วก็ลักษณะของงานในอนาคตนะคะรวมถึงผู้ที่มีส่วนได้ส่วนเสียหรือสิทธิ์เก่าที่จะต้องเข้ามาร่วมกับเราในการที่จะพัฒนาไปด้วยกันทั้งนี้ก็คือเพื่อให้การศึกษานั้นมีการพัฒนาอย่างต่อเนื่องและยั่งยืนนั่นเองนะคะ
Dear participant, the previous two keynote addresses will be relayed on our Facebook page, Siksasat Vijay, and also on the YouTube channel EDU TV PSU.
ค่ะสำหรับการบรรยายพิเศษในช่วงเช้าก็จบลงไปแล้วนะคะสำหรับท่านใดที่ต้องการรับชมการถ่ายทอดสดเมื่อสักครู่ท่านสามารถติดตามย้อนหลังได้ทางเว็บเพจ Facebook ของศึกษาศาสตร์วิจัยหรือทางช่องทาง YouTube ของคณะศึกษาศาสตร์ EDU TV PSU ได้ในภายหลังอีกครั้งหนึ่งค่ะ
At 1 p.m. we will have an international oral presentation. For the presenter, please be prepared and access the Zoom with the provided information in your email. As an information, the virtual international oral presentation is privileged only for those who have registered.
ค่ะหลังจากนี้นะคะในช่วงเวลา 13 นาฬิกาจะเป็นการนำเสนอผลงานวิจัยทางวิชาการระดับนานาชาติโดยขอให้ผู้นำเสนอผลงานนะคะได้เตรียมความพร้อมและท่านจะสามารถเข้าสู่ระบบการนำเสนอในรูปแบบออนไลน์ได้โดยระบบ Zoom ตามที่ได้แจ้ง Meeting ID ไว้นะคะและขอแจ้งเพื่อทราบว่าในการนำเสนอผลงานทางวิชาการระดับนานาชาติในครั้งนี้เราให้สิทธิ์เฉพาะผู้ที่ลงทะเบียนผ่านระบบเว็บไซต์ของเราเท่านั้นค่ะ
Okay. At the same time, at 1:30 to 3:30 p.m., we will have a panel discussion on innovative and sustainable education in times of challenge. The panelists are Associate Professor Dr. Thapani Thamameta, Director of Thailand Cyber University.
ค่ะรองศาสตราจารย์ดร. ถาปณี ธรรมเมธาผู้อำนวยการมหาวิทยาลัยไซเบอร์ไทย
Dr. Supot Sinutupong, Head of Technical Knowledge Management, AIS Advanced Info Service Public Limited Company. ค่ะ
ดร. สุพจน์ ศรีนุตพงศ์นะคะ Head of Technical Knowledge Management, AIS Advanced Info Service Public Limited Company ค่ะ
Mr. Wish Chian Chaibang, Director of Lam Plaimat Patana School, Buriram Province.
ค่ะและอาจารย์วิเชียรชัยบังนะคะผู้อำนวยการโรงเรียนลำปลายมาศพัฒนาจังหวัดบุรีรัมย์ค่ะ and our moderator is Assistant Professor Dr. โอภาส โกษยาพร Director of คุณหญิงหลง อัฏฐกรวีสุนทร Learning Resources Center Prince of Songkhla University อย่างที่ได้แจ้งไปนะคะว่าโครงการประชุมวิชาการระดับชาติศึกษาศาสตร์วิจัยครั้งที่ 8 และนานาชาติครั้งที่ 4 ของเรานั้นจัดเป็นระบบออนไลน์อย่างเต็มรูปแบบค่ะเพราะฉะนั้นขอเรียนเชิญทุกท่านนะคะได้กดไลค์กดแชร์ส่งสติ๊กเกอร์มาเพื่อเป็นกำลังใจให้กับทีมงานของเราได้เลยนะคะเราจะกลับมาเจอกันอีกครั้งนะคะกับทุกท่านในเวลา 13:30 นาทีและที่พลาดไม่ได้เลยนะคะช่วงท้ายเราจะมีการประกาศผลการวิจัยดีเด่นด้วยค่ะ
Ladies and gentlemen, as we have informed you that our 8th National and the 4th International Conference on National Education and Research is held entirely online. Therefore, I would like everyone to share, press share, like, send sticker, and to encourage our nice team. We will come back to meet everyone again at 1:30 p.m. for the national panel discussion. And at the end of session, there will be an announcement for the Best Research Paper Award.
ค่ะและสำหรับช่วงเช้าวันนี้สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.